Welcome to the test set. Here we talk with some of the brightest thinkers and tinkerers in statistical analysis, scientific computing, and machine learning, digging into what makes them tick, plus the insights, experiments, and OMG moments that shape the field. On this episode, we sit down with Paige Bailey, DevRel engineering lead at Google DeepMind. She started out coding text-based games from Byte magazine onto her Apple II computer, which is a real throwback. Her website mentions she makes weird things digitally and IRL, like a bot that emails her, roasting her taste in music, or solar-powered silent film birdhouses as street art in San Francisco. She runs us through her background in geophysics, where she was introduced to Python and open source early. She discusses how she weaves a variety of Google APIs and services together to make things fun, weird, and educational. And I left feeling like my use of AI could be so much weirder, so I'm so excited for people to listen to this interview. Paige Bailey, welcome to the test set.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So we're here in San Francisco, and you mentioned you took a Waymo in, which seems very
did. It is
relevant.
very on brand. Yes.
I love that. Just by way of introduction, so you're a developer relations engineering lead at Google DeepMind.
Correct.
And you've had a incredible career of doing a lot of things, which I really want to get to. Because I always forget, I want to make sure to say I'm Michael Chow, the host. And I'm joined by Hadley Wickham, chief scientist at Posit, and Isabel Zimmerman, credible Posit software engineer. And we're so happy to have you on.
Excellent.
Here in San Francisco.
Here in beautiful San Francisco. I know we talked a little bit before you came on, and I thought maybe you could just catch us up on your career, starting with your love of text adventures.
Oh,
maybe we
yes.
could go there and
Absolutely. So I got my first computer. We rescued it from being thrown away around the time that I was 8 or 9 years old. It was an Apple II. And there weren't a ton of games that were available for the Apple II at the time, certainly not ones that you could like go to GameStop and purchase. So I was beholden to all of the games that came with this computer that just missed getting thrown away. And also a whole bunch of books that talked about how you might build your own software programs.
cool.
And old magazines like Copies of Byte, which had additional like games that you could type in. So my first programs were all text adventures, kind of like either transcribing choose your own adventure books or like building my own. And that just sort of made computers feel like a fun thing, and loved open source as well. Like can pretty much give my entire career to open source.
Yeah, that's so
Do
cool.
you remember that era of computing, Michael?
I do.
Okay.
I do remember it, and we had like a printer where the paper, is one big,
Yeah, with the perforated
daisy
edges.
wheel.
Yeah.
and you have to rip it off.
Yeah.
It's rough, as a child, I feel like.
And it had such
Yeah.
a cool tone too, like
Yeah.
the
Like
the printer.
when it was working,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like humming a tune
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Exactly.
Isabel, I assume you never got a magazine where you like typed in.
I did not. I think my first intro to computer games was like Bugdom, anything from Pangea software I spent time in, as well as Myst.
Mist.
Yeah.
Oh, I
was-
love Mist.
There was a
Yeah.
Like #1 game, like my brother and I would sit around for hours and go through all the puzzles. It was amazing.
Mist, Riven, Exile, like definitely all known and loved.
Yeah.
All your games came on CDs then, or
Yeah.
yeah,
All
okay.
CDs.
Yeah.
All CDs.
And Riven, I remember Riven and Exile had like 4 CDs that you had to like put in order.
yeah.
As you explored the islands.
Yeah, for real. I'm ashamed to admit I never got past what seems like the very beginning of Myst. I just traveled around pulling levers, and
Yeah.
I never knew where the levers went to or what was happening. So I feel like you two really tapped into some other dimension of Myst that I totally
Collecting the
missed.
pages and like learning the lore of Cirrus and Achenar. Like,
It was like, I feel like it was my first intro to plot twists. And I was like, this is mind blowing. Like, I didn't realize you could experience a game like this and have such an emotional reaction to all of it.
exactly. And that you could kind of choose your own adventure when it came to the ending too. So you could like pick one of the brothers, or you could pick Atris, I think that was his name, or something. But it was awesome. Like strong
Yeah.
recommend. Like it holds up.
I'll have to go back. Yeah. I think I'm ready. I think I've like matured enough that I'm ready to tackle Myst in the way it was meant to be played.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Well, and now if you get stuck, you can go on the internet.
And
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
just get Claude Code to play.
To like play the game for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really curious. How did you get involved with computer programming?
Yeah, well, so creating text adventures, that was kind of the first thing. And then also when I went to Rice University in Houston, and there was a class called CAM 210, which a friend was taking, taught by kind of this majestic bearded human named Steve Cox. I'm not sure if you encountered him, Hadley. But he was like wonderful, wonderful human. Usually taught CAM 210 using MATLAB. But for whatever reason, like this semester was teaching it using Python, like Python plus a lot of the numeric and scientific computing packages that were kind of earlier days at the time. And I remember like hanging out with my friend who was going through a lot of the tutorials and like trying to bang their head against the wall to start using Python, and got really enchanted by this idea that people would build things and then like release them out into the world for $0.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that was, I would say, like started programming, just text adventures, making mods to like Grand Theft Auto, not really like thinking anything of it when I was younger. And then I got to school and like Python was kind of the first thing that helped me understand open source.
Yeah, cool. And would you say you're doing a lot of sort of data science work out of school, or what kind of?
So it's really fascinating. Like I feel like there was this period of time where a lot of people were doing data science-y style things, but the term did not exist. So for open source, my background, I was doing kind of geophysics, specifically planetary sciences research. So I interned at the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics and Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio. And was doing a lot of work to understand lunar ultraviolet. So there were these spacecraft that had a whole bunch of data that would get pulled down to help understand lunar albedo or some of the other things like metrics that the spacecraft were capturing. And the expectation was that you would analyze them using something called IDL, which was more painful than MATLAB. And but I had like Python existed, and so that was a little bit easier. And so I ended up if I needed to visualize data or kind of understand it, instead of like trying to bang my head against the wall and understand IDL, apologies to anybody who might have been working on IDL, I just used Python and started working on it like that. And we were also really fortunate in Texas in the sense that like just down the way in Austin, there were a whole bunch of people that were also like nerds into open source libraries for scientific computing. So like the Nthought Canopy dudes, and the Anaconda team now, though they had previously had another name, I think Continuum Analytics or something similar. So feel like I really lucked into it, honestly.
So it's kind of hard to imagine now, but at the time it was such a crazy idea to like that you might use like free software to do serious work instead of paying like money for it. But like now it just seems like it is kind of like weird, right? We're just using all this free stuff that people make from out of the goodness of their hearts and give to the world.
100%, especially in the oil and gas, like in the geophysics oil and gas industry world, because so much of that software is proprietary. Like even today, like there's something called Petrel, the one of the software applications for understanding subsurface data, and I think it's like $100,000 a seat per year or something. So like crazy amounts. But most of the things that you do in Petrel, if not all, you could easily do with just like Python and open source libraries.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So it does feel like it feels so strange to even think about it right now, of like how different everything was back then. Like it was also the situation where I remember going to my professors and being like, hey, I really like, like programming. I think this is really cool. Like we should totally have libraries for doing earth sciences related things. And my professors being like, no, that's not real science. Like, why are you wasting your time? Like nobody needs, like if you're writing libraries, like that's not actually contributing to your career. It's actually a waste of time.
The like tooling versus doing the actual research.
Yep. And now it's, if you're not writing code or like using code to analyze data, you're probably not doing
What are you
research.
doing?
Yeah.
I'm really curious. You are somebody who has been in the AI space kind of like before it was cool, and I'm putting that in air quotes. Like, how did you make that jump from, I'm doing like geo stuff to now I'm doing AI, I'm doing deep learning, working on things like TensorFlow?
Yeah. So geophysics is like, I always feel like we are the sort of the more stay at home type kind of earth scientists, right? Like we're the ones that care about computers, and that are trying to find more efficient ways to analyze data. And the geophysics world actually adopted GPUs before most everybody else, for things like velocity modeling, like fluid dynamics simulations, like all sorts of stuff, even before the gaming industry kind of caught on to GPUs. And so I was doing that a lot for some of the geophysics work, just like trying to bang my head against CUDA. And when TensorFlow was first released, I don't think most people remember, but it was CPU only. So you were doing kind of like you were doing analysis across like large numbers of CPUs, not really thinking about GPUs until later on. And so that was something that I could do that was helpful, of just kind of like, hey, like you're thinking about accelerators now. I know CUDA, like I can help with that. And it's a useful way to kind of collaborate with the team. I think like if somebody releases an open source library, and you contribute to it, or you like build something with it and talk about it, then they get a flavor of what it would be like to work with you as a person.
There's such a strong pipeline of people from like physical sciences like that too. It feels like AI. There's the whole conference about ex-astronomers, now data scientists. It's so surprising to see how all this comes together.
Yeah, linear algebra, and like also, JAX has the same spec as NumPy. So, and a lot of the libraries have the same like general flavor of scientific computing libraries. So like SciPy for scientific computing processes. So I think there's definitely a lot of love between the kind of physics and mathematics world and the JAX world. Also, like all of the JAX machine learning frameworks authors came from mostly like mathematics backgrounds, which is quite cool.
Yeah. It's interesting. It seems like you've done a lot of both like development and product management and DevRel engineering.
Yep.
When did you know this was kind of the work that you really wanted to be doing? Like, how did this work come together?
Yeah, I think I again just like I feel so stupidly lucky, like in the sense that I've just always done whatever I thought would be useful and interesting, and now we're in this really happy place where a long time ago people would kind of artificially put people into buckets of like, oh, you're an engineer, you're a product human, you're a design human, you're like these other things, and you could only wear this one hat, which is really frustrating if you like doing a whole bunch of stuff. And now we're in this place where it's just like, oh, you want to do data visualization, and you want to do like you want to understand large scale data sets, and you also want to be able to build tools in order to do all of the above. Like, go for it. Like that's you can be this auteur of anything you want to enable. So I didn't have like any sort of design other than like I'm going to work on things that I feel will be important and useful and interesting. And when I was a product person, I was exclusively a product person on developer tools or models. So like highly technical, like lower level sort of things. So I was still writing code every day. Yeah.
It does really feel like Claude Code and similar tools like such a win for people who have just got like weird interests in lots of places.
Exactly. Like it's and like suddenly all of these things that were like 70% finished on your GitHub, like you can like actually get out into the world. There's never been a better time to be a curious human who wants to like create things.
Yeah. Like I made an iPhone app, like it's just a little timer for talks, but just like something that had been in my head for years, and like that's like a weekend project now. It's like, it's really cool.
Exactly. I don't have it in my backpack right now, but there's one of my side projects is using, there's something called a cheap yellow display. It's called a CYD ESP32. And it's like this little tiny board with just a visualization screen on top. And to update it, you have to like rewrite the firmware. So it's not as flexible as something like a Raspberry Pi with a screen or but I would have never been able to do anything with it. And now I'm using those to power these silent film birdhouses. So it's like you have a birdhouse, you put the little screen on the inside, people look through the little hole, and you can watch the silent films.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wait,
Cool.
that's
Yeah.
incredible.
I'm putting them around San Francisco as art installations.
Yeah.
Like next to the tiny like borrowing libraries.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But you
really
can you
cool.
can have like site specific films for each location.
And then like, there's just have like a little battery in them that lasts for ages.
Yep, and they're also like super like low energy requirements. So
Yeah.
even if you had kind of like a solar panel on top of the
Yeah.
birdhouse, like that would be enough to power it for quite a bit of time.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like this really gets into an area that Isabel and me to some small degree spent probably too much time, a rabbit hole went too deep down, which was every web domain you own for a side project
Yes.
and the sheer scale of
Buns.
what
The
it's
scale of
honestly
buns.
incredible.
Like your website is just such a beautiful, curious, joyful experience.
Thank you.
And like just the amount of fun side projects and whimsy that you're bringing to all of these like really hardcore tools. I'm really curious, like, what are you working on? What tools are you building? Whether they're the funkiest things like silent birdhouses, or what are you excited about right now?
Oh man. So I also love all of my side projects. Like they're super fun to build. Like I get a lot of joy out of them, but they're also kind of like sneaky ulterior motive is stress testing some of the features that we have coming out for the
wow.
Gemini APIs in our models.
You like hid vegetables in them for
Well, so as an example, we released something just recently, our second iteration of the multimodal embeddings model, which is allows you to embed in the same space video, audio, images, text, and code. So you can like pull together audio, video. Like you could type in like Alan Kay and then see like every time Alan Kay utters words in a video, but also like every time he appears in a video, anytime he appears in a photograph, etc. And it's just really, really cool to see that. So that's powering folklore.dev, which was pulling a lot of the oral histories from the Computer History Museum into kind of like a contextual space. So you got to see the transcript, you got to see interesting anecdotes extracted, but you also got it grounded in kind of like, well, when they said this computer, and they were able to do this on this computer, like what kind of compute power does it have? How does that compare to your mobile device? Like what would it cost in today's dollars? Those sorts of things. And it's the same with the stacks.dev, which was pulling in all of the Byte and Omni magazines and more on the way to kind of extract out insights using the Gemini models, whether it's like telephone numbers or addresses or whatever it is. And then also putting the covers and the articles in a similar embedding space. So if somebody like wrote in to complain about their experience using a Commodore 64, like what other articles are similar in vibes to that? And I also thought it was quite cool in the sense that like pulling in, 40 years or so of those magazines, and then mapping out the different, places that people were sending letters from, or like the stores and those sorts of things. When you visualize them on a map, you can start seeing like, oh my God, like in Houston, there were these pockets of people who all cared about this thing. And in, like Sunnyvale or in Cupertino, there were like 5 people within a 6-block radius that cared about this thing. And you can start realizing that like, geographic location might have impacted or influenced some of the creations of these products. Yeah. But all of that's like locked away otherwise. And now it's not, which is kind of amazing.
It's interesting to hear. It sounds like too, you working on models and working so closely with a lot of these tools, like gives you the opportunity to see like this is coming out, what new kind of like interesting thing can happen? Like what can it unlock?
Yeah. And also the cost changes too. So like the Gemini 3.1 flashlight model, which came out just recently, ended up kind of like it's like a 90% reduction in the costs associated. So significantly more powerful than like, Gemini 2.0 Pro or 2.5 Pro, but at a fraction of the cost and much faster. And it's the same with the batch API. Like you can get a 50% reduction in costs just by using the batch API. So the cost of maintaining all of these websites over time has actually gone down, even though like more features have been added and they've gotten much cooler, just because the model prices are also going down pretty exponentially.
Are you willing to tell us, like, how much does it cost to run one of those nowadays? Is it, hundreds of dollars to have this all be running on your website?
Yeah. So I deploy everything via Cloud Run, which is pretty low cost. And in some, I think for all of the things that you see on webpage.dev, now that I've replatted to use Gemini 3.1 Flashlight and Nano Banana 2 instead of Nano Banana Pro, for the number of ones that use Nano Banana 2, I think the most expensive service is the embeddings, but it's still been less than like $200 to maintain everything over the course of a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
For as many prolific projects that are on there, I'm shocked. That's impressive.
It's super, super cool. And like there are also a lot of open models that are becoming frontier quality. So I think the cost is only going to go down more over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see too all the projects, your kind of like pace of putting out like really interesting projects and sharing out. It seems like the turnaround sometimes is just immediate, that you might deploy a project in hours. Is that?
This is true. Like the latest one, I haven't added it to my website yet, though this is a good incentive too. It's a traffic cam guesser. So it pulls in all of the live traffic feeds from around the United States for it, or at least like a half dozen cities so far. And then like removes using Nano Banana 2 any street signs or identifying sites. And then you have to guess which neighborhood the traffic cam is from. And then like it gives you kind of GeoGuessr style hints of like, here's what you should have seen to help guide your choice. And you can also use like OAuth to log in and kind of track progress too. My favorite one though is the Wikipedia Racer. Which is like I am enchanted by depths of Wikipedia and Wikipedia rabbit holing. And so having something that will just create Wikipedia rabbit holes for me is pretty magical.
Yeah, I love that. I think I went on there too, and there's like levels of difficulty as well.
Oh, yeah,
If you really decked out, it's not point A to B. There's actually, you can customize your wiki race journey. Is that how many CCs your wiki racer has?
Yep. And then also you can commission your own adventures. So if you want something that's like related to Kanye or like related to like meditative Gregorian chants or whatever it is, like it will create a Wikipedia race for you specifically for that. And then it will also show you over time as more people try it, like what their score is and how their paths diverge from yours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you think you've always been into this like speed run? Will it bring joy? Like beautiful form of tinkering? Do you think like when you're a kid, someone could have guessed this person's gonna speed run apps?
Yeah. Oh gosh, no. I grew up in like the tiniest little farm town in Texas. So like 1,300 people, 15 miles away from the nearest grocery store sort of situation. And also in university, like I don't think any of my professors would have guessed it, though they probably would have said something to the effect of like, oh, Paige cares about computers too much. Like she's going to be a bad physicist. Like it's like, so I think the world has changed kind of recently to appreciate people who are whole humans, who care about not just like one thing, but like lots of things, and who are capable of seeing connections between lots of things. So a couple of favorite anecdotes. Like Claude Shannon came up with information theory because he took a philosophy class. Like there are other scientific breakthroughs that have been inspired by things that are completely outside of the sciences, that are in the arts. And then also, like as an example, Ted Nelson introduced Alan Kay and his wife because the Alan Kay's wife, Bonnie, was trying to write the screenplay for Tron. And she ended up basing like one of the characters in Tron on Alan Kay. Oh, wow. And that was the first screenplay to ever be typed and printed off on a computer because it was using the Alto at Xerox PARC. So it's like one of the most beloved like entertainment things, Tron, like was only possible because of this interplay between like tech plus computers. And last one, Larry Tusler got inspired by zines for the copy and paste feature.
Oh, wow.
For Macs,
Yeah.
right? Like so because he was like making zines, like cutting out things and like pasting them together, and like that inspired copy paste. So I feel like, you know, the magic happens in these margins, and like people had historically kind of been pushed into these silos, and now we're getting to the place where we're bringing back people into appreciating whatever they think they're interested in.
Yeah.
Sort of like interesting when you think about like the kind of Victorian like polymaths who
Yeah.
like did all of these different
Yep.
fields. It kind of feels like we're heading back in that direction a little bit more.
And also we're, you know, like just doing what enchanted them too, because
Yeah.
they would like play an instrument, or they would like go hang out with their friend who was like doing art in the park, and like it's, you know, those things are important. Like we should all be whole humans, not just like feel like we need to over-index on one strength.
How do you choose what to try? Like, how do you choose like, oh, I'm going to stitch A to B. I'm going to try this tool today. How are you figuring it out?
And like how many like of the things you try, like how many do you think are successes and like failures? Like
Yeah. So some of them, like a lot of the time, the thing that actually gets published is not the thing that I originally wanted to do. It's like, and like I find that there's some sort of constraint in the tool, or constraint in, you know, the API that I'm trying to call, that means that I have to pursue an alternate path. So as an example, one thing that I had been working on was like I also have a whole collection of just like emails that get sent to me every morning. One of which is pulling a new painting from the Art Institute of Chicago, or like a new art piece from the Art Institute of Chicago, describing it like a rough and tumble Chicagoan, and like in a cool way, and then also like peppering in like really interesting insights about the city or the author that you wouldn't expect, which is using the Google search grounding feature, and then formatting it nicely. But the reason that happened was because the Art Institute of Chicago was one of the only ones that had an API that you could call that did not require kind of like username password, and I didn't want to store that in plain text. So like that entire experiment was only possible because you could sort of ping the API and get that response back. Like originally I'd been like, oh, well, I should pull from a whole bunch of different museums and just do this generic thing. And then this gave it a little bit more of a flavor and personality. Yeah.
I think that's kind of one of the things I think I've learned from like making images with Nano Banana too, is sometimes you've just got to like roll with it.
Yep.
Like you can't, that initial idea you had, you can't hold on it too hard because you're just too frustrating to get to, and just got to be open to like what the model brings you, what randomness brings you today.
Exactly. Like it feels, one of the things that's been most enchanting about AI, as a person who, you know, computer programmers historically have very much wanted to control everything. Like I must control everything. Like I must deterministically know the input and deterministically know the output. And now it's like, it's definitely not that. It's kind of like, all right, you can set the constraints, or like you can attempt to set some constraints, but like what you're going to get is like real different. And so you either need to be able to kind of do that in an artistic way that appreciates randomness and serendipity, or you're going to get real frustrated and not want to be a computer programmer anymore. So.
That does make me wonder, like, if statisticians are kind of like have a bit of a heads up there because they're just so used to the idea of like randomness.
Yeah.
Like, I always like found this idea of like, like sort of quantum physics, and it feels to like many people, I think, that if the foundations of the universe are probabilistic, that's just like horrible. But to me, that just like, I'm just like, of course it's that way. That totally makes sense to me. Like, why does it need to be deterministic?
Exactly. And I think it also is a lot more inspiring in the sense that, the real world is messy. Like, and if you see something that's unexpected, then it might inspire you to go a completely different way, or to see something in a way that you wouldn't have imagined necessarily. And is also just a lot more fun. Like, I feel like one of the biggest challenges right now is that, universities have kind of over-indexed on problem sets. And now, like, if you have a problem set, like, good luck finding a person that's actually going to do the problem set, as opposed to just like paste it into whatever their favorite chatbot is and get a response back. And so they're not quite learning anything unless you kind of set up the constraints for the assignment to be like, all right, well, today you have a whole bunch of different hardware. You build it and then explain whatever physical processes are required and throughout the building phase. And if you're trying to connect something and it doesn't work, you have to explain why it didn't work and the physics behind that. Like, that's a much cooler assignment as opposed to just like, hey, what is the velocity of A versus B?
Yeah, when I like think about teaching like data science today, it's like the cost of creating a Shiny app or a little interactive applet to explore something is now like zero. Like, you should be doing that all the time. Like, we don't need to ask these like deterministic, is this right or not questions. We can be like, hey, create a tool to explore this and then tell us what you found.
Yeah, or create your own data set. Like figure out a really gnarly question that you want to answer, and then find a way to automate the creation of a data set that will help you answer the question.
Yeah, I actually had I tried this with I only realized I flew to California last week when the lines at Houston's airports were getting really, really long, and only at that moment I was like, oh, I need to be scraping the wait times and recording them in a Parquet file on GitHub. And so I did a little bit on the website to kind of find, and I was like, oh, there's actually a JSON endpoint I can call that gives me nicely formatted JSON. But I was like, oh, maybe there's a historical API hidden here as well. And I was like, hey, Claude Code, can you just try this out? And it came up with 15 different plausible looking URLs and tried them all out. None of them did actually yield the historical data. One of them looked really promising, it was the API/date. But then it just returned the same day. But just that kind of exploration you can do now. You don't have to know a ton about API. You need to know what an API is, a bit about how it works. But that ability to just iterate, create data sets that matter to you, collect them and store them, I think is really cool.
Yeah, and if they matter to you, they probably matter to somebody else too. In which case, suddenly the world is filled with a lot of more data sets that can be used or expanded.
I mean, my plan is to have a very a hyper specific IAH wait time website, so you can be this is what it's looking like today, and the historical context, and Tuesdays look like this,
and you call it Houston, we have a problem, or
there it is.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a real critical role here. There's a big opportunity here.
Yeah.
So we heard a lot about your projects, and we learned that your projects actually involve a lot of important things that are coming out. You've hidden your vegetables in them, and we just didn't know we were eating them. Yeah. I'm curious how it ties into being a developer relations engineering lead at DeepMind. Are these all connected somehow?
A little bit, yep. So most of the models that I'm using are DeepMind specific models. So they would be the different flavors of Gemini that we have. Mostly not Pro, mostly Flash and Flashlight and some of the others. The Nano Banana models, VO for video generation. We also have an open model family called Gemma, which we also expose via the API. So you can either download it and use it yourself, or you can kind of use it via our API for $0, which is quite cool. And then also there are some tinier versions of the Gemini models that are small enough to fit on mobile devices. So we've embedded one within the Chrome browser. We've embedded them into Pixel devices, and you can kind of use the onboard intelligence without Wi-Fi connection for $0, and that's getting better by the day as well. But so those are kind of the models that we support. I also mentioned JAX, like the machine learning framework and all of the affiliate libraries. And then we also have some labs experiments, as well as a tool called anti-gravity that's kind of like an IDE for experimenting with these things. But all of that is kind of the products that we would expect developers and increasingly like people who are developer adjacent to use to build things. And I'm actually really, really excited about getting information workers to be able to create and to use these tools. So not just people who are coming from engineering backgrounds or who understand software engineering, but like all of the people outside of that world.
You said information workers?
Yep.
What's a information worker?
Yeah, so
that's just me being a barbarian.
No. Excellent question. So like information workers, like I feel like it's such a nebulous term that could apply to pretty much anybody. But like people who are data analysts, or people who might be like working in the sciences to like take in primarily CSVs and like do interesting analyses on them. Like one of the first things that I used TensorFlow for back when it came out a long time ago was one of the projects that they released with it was being able to classify 5 different kinds of flowers, but you could also just like have 5 different kinds of things that you wanted to classify and do that classification process pretty simply, just kind of like a move between the 5 different kinds of flowers to 5 different kinds of other things. And so in the earth sciences, as well as in the biological sciences, but there were a lot of grad students, self-included, who were having to hand classify like different kinds of features in reefs, or different kinds of shapes of things on petri dishes or whatever it is. And instead of having, a grad student spend a month like going through and doing that, like you could do it really easily just with the most basic classification task. And so like all of these people who are working in the sciences, there are tons and tons of those kinds of use cases that are ripe for automation, that tools exist that would like save time and energy and accelerate the scientific process that nobody just knows about.
Yeah.
So like now that the models are good enough to do this kind of work, like just blazing a path for people who are experts to like automate away the parts that are frustrating and like focus on the parts that are fun.
I think like inside businesses too, there's like a lot of people whose jobs like center around Excel spreadsheets and like painstakingly carefully copying bits from one sheet to another sheet and making sure they line up, or like getting information out of a Jira ticket and putting it in a spreadsheet, and they've got a PDF and extracting 3 bits. There's all this stuff that's just like really like no one enjoys doing this. Like it's often like it's high stakes. Like it's really easy to make a mistake. It's like no one enjoys doing that, and there's just so much potential to.
Yeah, and it also is like very hard on the human body too, because if you're like copying and pasting things, like a lot of people use mice for that, in which case like the potential for RSIs, like the repetitive stress injuries, are really high. And so like anything that can take away like the parts of work that are boring and like not fun, I think is a great use for these models.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Yeah, it's so helpful to hear like the different people, or like all the different tasks where people need this and that for something. Sometimes where it's like it sounds like you're saying also like it's got to be right, but it's also a little bit mundane.
Yeah.
these tools can really lift.
Well, and
And
there's stuff like if like we had to do it, like we could write a program to do it and like really easily. But if you don't know how to program, you're just completely locked out of this automation. And I think there's still like a lot of questions to answer about how do we make sure they can do this for like safely and reliably and put checks in places. But it's really exciting and just a lot of human misery that we can hopefully eliminate.
I'm really curious, like as somebody who builds and uses and like combines all of these tools, how you decide to like what tools you're using and how they're like how to continue growing and learning and staying current, especially being in a world where things change on the day, on the hour. Like how are you making decisions about where to go with the tools that you're using?
All of these models that get released, they're basically like supercharged engines, right? Like, and so like one of the things that can be a little bit disheartening to hear sometimes is that people want one model to kind of be the one model that they use, whereas I think that what we see is that it's a much more effective path to like pick a model based on what it's really, really good at or what you need. Like if you need a model that has really low latency and that is really, really cost effective and that can get the job done for a given subset of tasks, like pick that. Don't reach for like the highest end model every single time. And I find like, so for the Gemini models, they're really good at analyzing video, PDFs with images embedded in them, audio, like translating between different languages, like doing real-time interactions, those sorts of things. And I find that the Anthropic models are exceptionally good at kind of writing in a way that feels like I'm talking to a friend, and also writing code. And so if I couple together like Gemini's ability to understand video, to generate images, to understand PDFs with like images embedded, and then also Anthropic's ability to like write code and then to maybe like plan out what the work should look like, then that's a really magical experience. Whereas if you were trying to use one model to do all of those things, like you would just not have a satisfying journey. But it's not, I guess, answering your, which is just like it is a 24/7 sort of situation of like constantly trying out new things and seeing what works for you and what works for the different tasks that you care about.
It feels exhausting sometimes, right? Like I've never really felt like FOMO in my career, but now it feels like sometimes it's almost like paralyzing. Like I can't be like, if I'm working, I'm like, oh my God, maybe there's a new model that just came out that would like do my work for me or like, do what I'm doing now better. It is like, it's an exhausting time to be.
This is the AI psychosis.
Yeah.
It is definitely like, and the cost of writing software is going to zero. But that means that taste is more important than ever, right? Like, so the ability to create things that feel still human and special and serendipitous. Like one of the things that I loved most about, like reading Byte magazine or like whatever else, is that I would sometimes find a thing that was something I absolutely needed at the time, but I would have never known to go look for it myself. And now I feel like with AI kind of driving, the content that you see on social platforms or like the code that gets generated in a specific style or format or tone, that kind of like, again, is forcing people into silos or like one way of viewing the world, when the thing that's really magical is like helping people understand that the world is bigger, to see it in a different way. And so like that, I try to view the models as just tools. And then like part of my job is figuring out how to take their outputs and to craft them in a way that would resonate with people.
That really speaks to me as like somebody who has developed open source and telling people all the time, like there's no language war and you understand like, it's not R versus Python, it's the right tool for the job. And hearing you say, that applies to models as well. And just trying to deconstruct that in my mind, like this is the model I should be using for coding. This is the model I should be using for helping me with docs or something like that. Feels very empowering. And we have these muscles already.
Exactly. And it changes monthly. So like the ability to, if not weekly, right? Like the ability to just kind of try things out and to accept that things will change. And then like, again, statisticians have the edge, and people who have worked with data have the edge because we all understand data drift. So it's just never been a more exciting time to work in this space, but also I absolutely agree. It is kind of exhausting.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I know we're getting long and you have to hop a flight to LA for a hackathon.
Heck yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
It's a generative media hackathon, so it'll
cool.
be like VO, but also Nano Banana, and also hopefully like the Lyria API as well, so like people can create music and
nice.
Yeah.
I also don't doubt that on the flight there's a high chance you push some kind of app.
Well,
just the time you're in the air, I fully believe that's possible.
Well, I do still need for the webcam, like the traffic cam guesser, I still need to add it to my main website, but I also want to add more street view data in more cities.
Oh, nice.
So maybe like Houston is next on the list. There's not enough Texas representation, so maybe that's
I love that. I know we learned one really fun fact that we chatted about a lot too, which was that you have an app that roasts your last song choice.
Oh yeah, on Last FM. So like the last Last FM I am also like a super fan of. Like I have a Scrabble history that is like a decade deep. Or like a so like if you look at Paige's listening choices like from the last decade plus, like there's definitely been an evolution. But it will tell me like based on what I've just listened to, what my estimated age is, and then also like how pretentious am I, or like how basic based on those choices.
Yeah. Could you, if you had to pitch humanity on why they should get roasted on their last song choice, how would you do that?
So we all take ourselves way too seriously. Like we and in all honesty, like if you're listening to the same thing over and over again, or reading the same thing over and over again, or using the same model over and over again, like the part of the joy of being a human is like learning from new perspectives. So like if you get roasted, like it's a good incentive to kind of laugh at yourself a little bit and then maybe experiment with something new.
Yeah,
that's a great takeaway message. That's what I was gonna say.
I can't think I'm so inspired by your just ability to like code and mix things and just find serendipitous combinations. So can't thank you enough for coming on, and I'm so excited for the next one or a dozen things you do.
Thank you so much for having me. And I really feel like there's never been a more interesting time to care about data and to care about the way in which information is communicated to folks.
100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cool.
Excellent.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah.
The Test Set is a production of Posit PBC, an open source and enterprise tooling data science software company. This episode was produced in collaboration with creative studio Agi. For more episodes, visit thetestset.co or find us on your favorite podcast platform.